Hello and welcome to this What is New video. My name is Rasmus Wolf Jensen, and today we will be looking at the B1 Usability Package 3.9.0.0, where we'll be looking at the most important new features in that release. First feature of today is the B1 Document Manager. The B1 Document Manager is a new B1 Productivity Package module released from this version. The B1 Document Manager is a tool for companies that need to keep better track of their attached files and enrich them with associations for the SAP projects, profit centers, documents, and so on. I won't go into details here, but there will be individual e-learning sessions for this new module later on today. Next feature is in the Add and Edit menus, where we finally now allow you to add images to your new menu items, as you can see in the main menu screen. That has also been done a bit bigger. You now have the option to choose an image part. So if you have one of the main menu items, you will be able to set in an image of type BNP or JPEG and have it on the screen. You will be able to double click the column in order to choose the file or just type it in manually. Please remember, of course, that you should use a server part, not just a local part as I've done here in the sample. Next we have the account balance preview option for B1 Printer Delivery, where you now have the option to check a checkbox here in order to see a preview before actually executing your emails. Before, when you pressed OK, it just send out the emails. Now you have the option to get this window up first, and you can check and uncheck if someone should not have an account balance sent to them. For B1 Printer Delivery, we have also added the new SMTP configuration system for the report actions. In the past, when you used the report action and you chose SMTP, you needed to go to one of the user-defined tables and you needed to enter all the data in manually. Then you need to restart Business One in order for the module to pick that new data up. Now instead, in the report action, you have a little button next to where you choose your different SMTP options, and that will open a new Manage SMTP, where you can add and remove SMTP configuration, so you don't need to go to the user-defined table anymore. Next, we have a change in the item placement tool. In the past, when you used user-defined fields and put them onto the main window, you had the label option, but it was made so that if you made the type text area where you have multi-line, it would ignore the label. So before, if I just made a text area, it would put it like this, while in the new version, if you have the label check mark activated, it will now actually generate a label as well for that text area. If you have existing configurations where you have, using the content creator, put in this label by yourself, you might have the problem that you have actually just left this label checked, and you might end up with two labels. If that is the case, you should just remember that you should uncheck the label and you should be able to be back. Next big thing that's happened is that the B1 search is now launched in a separate thread. So the functionality by itself has not changed, but what happens now is that when you execute a search, it will lock the screen down and will then do all its search features in another separate process thread. That meaning that you will be able to use Business One whilst making a big search, and we will also in this way eliminate the timeout box some people have seen in the past. Next is a small but very asked for feature. We have the Quick Create module in Usability Package, and the way it works is that you normally, when you were in the customer field, you could press End and bring up the window. But at the same time we had the toolbox, and that had an option say start a name, so you already started the name of the sales order. or the document you wanted to work with. So that meant that you started a name, and when you pressed End in the name field, the quick create didn't came up. We have now made it so that it will come up if you are either in the customer field or the name field. In order to still be able to work with the End key, it will only bring it up in the name field if you in fact doesn't have any values in name or customer, if they both are blank. So it shouldn't affect existing ways of people working, other than the ones starting in name can now have the option to use the quick create easier. Next change is in the recurring invoices. In the recurring invoice we had an option called updates, and that meant that when you run the wizard or use the update feature in the menus, it had the option to update the description, the price, the sales employee and the tax group on each line that was marked as update. That meant that while you were up to date with all the data, you had the problem that you couldn't use the dynamic keywords in the description field because they would be overridden by the update feature. So instead of having all these 4 things changing every single time you do update, you now have the option in the configuration to set up which of the 4 things you would actually have updates. As default, everything is on for backward compatibility reasons, but you can very quickly go to configuration, uncheck the line description option, and then have it update the price, sales employee and that group without changing the line description. Next big feature is a new command in the macro system. The new command is called prompt, and it allows you to make different parts of a macro conditional. So it's best shown by an example. So here I have a universal function UF19 called add freight, and I can prompt here, I want to say, do I want to add freight or not? And then I give it 2 parameters. One is one universal function if you press yes to that and add the freight, and the other one is a universal function if we press no. Here we only see one of the several variants we have in the prompt. You can actually have up to 3 buttons and up to 3 different answers to that. You can also say, if you only want to add to the yes button, we can just leave out the UF21. So we have the option to branch the macros now. So again, I press my button, I'm asked to say add freight. If I say yes, it will add freight. If I say no, it will just give me a message that no freight was added. Final feature I will show today is in the universal function SQL report. We now have a new format type, and the new format type is LB:UFUID. So this is done because we normally have the different formats we can use OCRD in order to make a column of type Business Partner, OINV, ORDR, and so on in order to get these different link buttons. These options allow you to specify what should happen when you press the link button. So in this case, I have, as an example, just made a list of all the recurring invoices in the usability package. And I can't go in and say that column 1 is a link button to my invoice templates for the recurring invoices, because that is not supported by the format by itself. It only knows a fixed limited amount of different windows, the most common ones. So what you can instead do now is you can, instead of giving a table, you can type LB:, and then you can type the code of another universal function. And what will happen is, at that time I actually press the link button, it will launch that universal function. In this case I actually do a macro, so I activate the recurring invoice window, I switch to find mode, I transfer my number 2 here over to the field on the main on the invoice template screen, and then I click the search button. So I have essentially made my own functionality for that link button, or the orange arrow I have. So these were the major new features in 3.9. There's of course a lot of different additional features and some bug fixes. You'll be able to go and download and see the entire version history if you go to boyum-it.com/HPO. As you can see, it's a very big release. It's a new module you have, so please check that out. And I hope you enjoy the new version. This concludes this session. For training material, please go to service.boyum-it.com/education. Or if you want a free demo of the product, go to license.boyum-it.com/B1UP. If you want to contact us, you can do it either by our sales email or our support email. Thank you for attending.